What are we discussing on today's podcast, you ask? Well, want to discuss the D-backs first half. How should D-backs fans be feeling heading into the All-Star break? And then I want to hand out some team awards for the first half. I got some MVPs, some disappointments. We got a whole bunch, all on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, just follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or just look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free and available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube, so please hit subscribe on the Locked on Diamondbacks YouTube channel. Now, for our Monday podcast, we usually do a crossover with Sully Baseball, but he had a family thing to attend to, so he will not be joining us today. But since I have all these Diamondback bobbleheads just lying around, I'd never know what to do with them. I figured, why not start bringing them into my stream, specifically when I'm doing these solo shows? Why not be joined by a little friend? And so today we got Ketel Marte, courtesy of our friends at Foco. Ketel Marte is here. You got the Serpiente over his neck. He's got the Serpientes jersey on. Ketel Marte is looking clean, so you can check that out at Foco. And he's going to be joining us today. We'll probably do a little rotation going forward. I got the Zach Gallen streak bobblehead. I got another Game of Thrones Dbacks bobblehead. So I think I'm going to start doing a little rotation for the YouTube audience of all my bobbleheads. But let's talk about the D-backs first half of the season, because they just wrapped up a series against the Pittsburgh Pirates where we're not going to get too much into the minutia of that series. D-backs take 2 out of 3. Zach Davies looked fine in the finale. D-backs offense just couldn't do enough, but a whirlwind week for the D-backs this week, because it was pretty scary. We at one point thought Corbin Carroll, he swung a bat in the 7th inning. He immediately grabbed his shoulder. He left the game, and we thought, man, it felt like Corbin Carroll was going to miss the entire rest of the season. I was saying Corbin Carroll should be shut down for the rest of the season. Don't play against the Pirates. Don't even start the MLB All-Star game. And the reports, the imaging, it all came back looking clean, looking pretty positive. And Corbin Carroll was right back out there the next day after shoulder discomfort, and he got base hits in the second game back. He got a walk-off. Basically, in a 72-hour period, we went from thinking Corbin Carroll was going to be out the rest of the season, the D-backs' hopes of maybe winning a World Series or at least having a deep postseason run, we're going to be dead in the water without their MVP Corbin Barrels. But then all of a sudden he emerges from the ashes. He comes back like the Phoenix he is, and he hits a walk-off in like a 72-hour period. Just crazy of a week for the D-backs. And if you look at the D-backs since June 13th, over the last 24 games, the D-backs are 11-13. They are kind of struggling right now as we enter this MLB All-Star stretch. And the offense has been a little bit more hit or miss the last few weeks. Got Merrill Kelly on the injured list, so that leads to some potentially bad performances from the Fots and the Ryan Nelsons of the world. But even with that being said, even with the D-back struggles over the last 3 weeks, because actually, if you look at the MLB standings, even though the D-backs have more wins than the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have played less games in the first half than the D-backs. The D-backs have one more win and one more loss than the Dodgers, meaning the Dodgers have a higher winning percentage. So even though they're technically tied in the standings in terms of games back, they both are equal there. the Dodgers have the tiebreaker because they have a higher winning percentage. So it's just pretty disgusting to go on Twitter and see which teams are leading at the first half of the season in their division. And then you got the Dodgers logo there. So instead of the D-backs logo, and all my Dodgers friends are texting me, oh, look at this. Look who's in the division. Well, guess what? If we actually had the same record and we were tied going into the All-Star break, the D-backs would have the tiebreaker because we whooped you so far on the season. And that's kind of goes back to my overall point. Even though the D-backs have been struggling the last 24 games, 11-13 in those games, I want D-backs fans, what the overall takeaway from this first half of the season, I want D-backs fans to feel grateful. I want you guys to be happy. This was the best case scenario for the D-backs in the first half of the season. Yes, technically we might not be in first place in the division right now when you look at MLB.com or the ESPN standings, but spiritually we are the first place team at the halfway point, and it is crazy to think about. At this point last year, when the D-backs were entering the All-Star break, they did have a 52 on their record, but it was in the losses category. The D-backs had 52 losses heading into the All-Star break last year, and just one season later, they have 52 wins heading into the All-Star break. And if you want to hear something even crazier, you go back just 1 year prior in 2021, the D-backs had 52 wins all season. Over the course of 162 games, the D-backs won 52 games. So far, over the course of 90-something games, I think just 90, the D-backs have won 52 games. It was a fantastic first half, and I want us to remember that and keep that in perspective, because it's easy to get down in the slumps. I do it. I ride the emotional roller coaster more than anyone. I ride the highs. Best believe I'm talking crap when the D-backs are winning. And when we're in those lows and the D-backs are struggling, I feel like the world is over, and I feel like the D-backs are not even going to make it to the postseason. But with how so many different variables and factors have played out in the first half, which I'm going to rattle off, we just need to be grateful for the D-backs record and for the entertainment that they've had on the field, because guess what? Corbin Carroll, immediate impact. This guy right now if the season ended today, Corbin Carroll wouldn't win the MVP, but he would be in the MLB Network TV show that did the top 3 finalists for the MVP in both leagues, because Corbin Carroll would finish top 3 in MVP voting if it ended today. First rookie in MLB history with at least 15 home runs and 25 stolen bases at the All-Star break. It's been phenomenal to see Corbin Carroll's instant and immediate impact. And we talk about prospects. Every MLB fan, when your team sucks and you want to look into the future, you just start pulling up those prospect rankings and you say, this guy who's 18 from Venezuela, he's going to be a stud in 5 years and he's going to change our franchise. And most of those times, those things do not work. But this guy, he was a first-round pick, 16th overall, kind of fell to the D-backs, roasted the system, had a shoulder-ending surgery. Wait, what am I even saying? Season-ending shoulder surgery, that's what I want to say, in the minor leagues. Still one of the top prospects. Everyone hailed Corbin Carroll, but can that guy actually hit his ceiling and live up to expectations? He got the massive deal before the season even started. He has blown away everyone's expectations. Incredible to watch Corbin Carroll this season. The Dalton Varsho trade, D-backs won that. Gabriel Moreno has been slumping over the last month, but he's still been a very positive dude as a contact hitter and a guy that can just throw out runners behind the plate. You cannot run on Gabriel Moreno. And Lourdes Gurriel, going to be a first-time All-Star in his career, has brought so much just culture and excitement. Kind of feels like when Eduardo Escobar was first acquired by the D-backs, just the level of excitement he brought to the locker room. Love Lourdes Gurriel and Gabriel Moreno. Zach Gallen, potential Cy Young Award winner. I mean, you could say he's leading it. It's close with him and the Stromans and the Clayton Kershaws, but Gallen right now is at least a finalist. I think FanDuel probably still has him as a leader, and he might start the MLB All-Star game. Great, very good season. Maybe not a great season from Zach Gallen, and the fact that he potentially is a Cy Young Award winner and not even having a great Zach Gallen season, I think he could kick it up in the second half of the year. You're getting the Ketel Marte bounce back that we so desperately asked for, because Ketel Marte was just so bad last year, just unrecognizable at times. And so far, Ketel Marte this year, 850 plus OPS, 15 plus bombs. The ribbies are back too. He's been a good middle of the order runners in scoring position hitter once again. Love Ketel Marte back to looking like arguably the best second baseman in baseball. How about the bullpen finally just being fine? Finally just being middle of the pack. We got a few dudes we could trust with the Chafins, the Castros, the McGuffs, the Kyle Nelsons. Hopefully Mantiply can ever get back to form. Kinkle's been solid. Like, for once, we're feeling fine about the bullpen. Still need some more work. Could definitely use another bullpen arm and definitely need to solve the ninth inning save situation issues. But great job by the bullpen so far. The D-backs have one of the best young talent cores in Major League Baseball. Like, of all the cores in Major League Baseball, D-backs are right in the mix for the core you would want to have going forward. Them, the Braves, the Orioles, the Rays, all in conversation, but the D-backs are right there in terms of one of the best young cores in Major League Baseball. Just so much to be grateful for. D-backs are right in the thick of the playoff race, but they can't sit on their laurels. We need Mike Hazen to be aggressive at the deadline. I think he will be. I think he will go out there and try to acquire another starter for the rotation, try to acquire another arm or two for the bullpen. But considering how the last couple of seasons have gone, I mean, last season wasn't terrible, but considering they had 52 losses at the All-Star break, the year before you had 52 wins for the entire season, sitting at 52 wins, sharing the lead in the NL West as we hit the halfway point of the season. Yeah, if you're a D-backs fan, I think you should be grateful, and I think we should all be happy on how this first half went. But let's not just be satisfied here. Let's turn it up in the second half. Let's get aggressive at the deadline, and let's make sure to leave our mark on this season by the year's end. Now, I want to hand out some team awards based on the first half of the season. But before we get there, I first want to talk to you guys about BetterHelp, because BetterHelp is great if you just need to talk to someone, if you're going through something in your life. BetterHelp is here to help, because sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices and the path forward isn't always clear. Sometimes you just need to talk it out with someone, and that's where BetterHelp can help you out. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right, let's get back into the podcast, and let's hand out some D-backs team awards. But first, let me say, don't forget to catch every D-backs pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and search up Diamondbacks. Sometimes I forget to say that little ad read. I have to throw it in before we get back into the podcast. But let's now get into the D-backs team awards. And this thing starts off very serious and then just gets more silly and entertaining as I say more awards. So we're going to start off with the nitty gritty, the most serious award at the top. We're going to start with the big boy award, the MVP off the top. A lot of these are going to be kind of obvious, some of them. Some of these we're not going to have very long discussions on, but MVP for the D-backs, I mean, you're going to have your finalists like the Ketel Martes, the Zach Gallons, but I think the MVP is a guy who's leading the D-backs in WAR and WRC plus, not Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Corbin Barrows, the savior of this D-backs team. I mean, just having an all-time rookie season at the halfway point. I mean, this is still not updated for the finale against the Pirates, but entering the Pirates game, a 290 plus average, 900 plus OPS, 18 home runs, 26 stolen bases, almost 50 RBIs. Corbin Barrows has been insane. What he can do at the plate, as we always say, on the bases, the yada yada with Corbin Barrows. He's a fantastic player. He's already an all-star starter as a rookie. Already going to be an MVP finalist if he's healthy and just stays on the pace he's been on. I don't see why he can stay on the pace he's been on the whole season. Corbin Barrows has lived up to all expectations, and this is going to be one of the faces of Major League Baseball for the next decade plus. Cy Young for the D-backs this season. I think we have to give it to the guy who could win Cy Young if the season ended today. Zach Allen. Now, I do think Merrill Kelly is a very strong argument to be the D-backs Cy Young Award winner as well, because he's been so good for the D-backs this season, but he's missed a few starts now because of being on the injured list. Zach Allen also had just been elite once again in whip, doesn't give up a ton of home runs, has been really elite this year at not walking dudes as well. And he's been a workhorse. He's one of the league leaders in innings pitch while racking up the Ks. Zach Allen is a stud. I think he's been a little bit weird. Sometimes he's been kind of feast or famine, where it feels like it's either 7 innings, 1 earned run, and 10 strikeouts, or maybe it's like 4 innings, 5 earned runs, and couple home runs allowed. Like, it's been pretty weird year for Zach Allen. I don't think he's been super dominant this year, but he's still been the best D-backs pitcher. So he gets the D-backs Cy Young Award for the first half of the season. How about breakout hitter / pitcher? My breakout hitter, I think, is obviously the first-time All-Star, Geraldo Perdomo, who quite literally, I mean, if you told me what do I think Geraldo Perdomo's career trajectory is, I would have told you career backup, and that would have been nice. I would have been like, yeah, he's like a fine career backup, like maybe a little pinch hitter, a little pinch runner guy that you can use. But now I'm like, all right, maybe he is a everyday shortstop infielder, not a high level one, but just a solid one. Because despite the All-Star selection, I still don't think this is going to be a multi-time All-Star or a future superstar. Like, I think this is going to be probably his only All-Star selection in his career. But now I do think Perdomo can at least be a solid major leaguer. Maybe not someone that's elite, but like a Jose Iglesias, Andrelton Simmons level player who's always going to stick around in Major League Baseball, probably going to be at the bottom of your lineup, but just a nice glue guy, a nice little locker room guy. So Perdomo making to the All-Star game, been phenomenal this year. I mean, his numbers have tailed off a little bit over the last month, but he's been really impressive. And still, the number that matters the most are Geraldo Perdomo, runners in scoring position, men on the bases. This dude has been one of the clutchest players in Major League Baseball this season. Go check the stats. My breakout pitcher for the D-backs this season is Tommy Henry. Maybe a little bit of a surprise to me entering this season. He's only 25, but he's been dynamite his last 4 starts. He has like a sub 1.5 ERA over his last 4 starts. And he's just been solid out there. He's been able to eat innings. And remember, this was the dude that replaced Madison Bumgarner. So the fact that he's entering the All-Star break with 74 innings pitched in a 3.75 ERA, like, that's way better than anything Madison Bumgarner could have given the D-backs. So I am entirely happy for Tommy Henry and the work that he's put in for the D-backs in the first half of the season. How about the biggest disappointment among hitters? Right here, I think there's an answer a lot of people would say, but I'm going with Josh Rojas, who at one point, if you remember the first 3 weeks of the season, Josh Rojas was one of the hottest players in Major League Baseball. Now he's down in the minors. I think he just got sent on the injured list as well. Josh Rojas is batting .235 with a .607 OPS on the season, and he's just someone that hasn't even hit a home run this year. I don't know where the power has gone for Rojas. He was always someone that I thought I wouldn't want to write off because he's exceeded expectation year after year for me. And I thought this was going to be maybe not a breakout year, but just another little incremental step forward for Rojas after showing off the wheels last year. I was like, if I could get a 270 average season, a 750 OPS, and like 25 steals from Rojas over the course of a full year with like 12 home runs, something like that, I would have been really happy. But so far, just hasn't done much at the plate since the first couple weeks of the season. Hopefully, he could go down in Reno and rediscover his swing like we've seen with the Thomases and the Jake McCarthy's of the world. I'm holding out hope. But so far, he's probably been the biggest D-backs disappointment from the first half of the year. Among position players, among pitchers, I think the biggest disappointment among D-backs pitchers, and you could say maybe it's not fair because he's a rookie, but I'm going with Brandon Pfaadt. And I know being a rookie doesn't have the experience. Maybe I shouldn't expect a rookie to dominate like a Corbin Carroll or something like that. But Brandon Pfaadt, it's not just that he's been bad, because Ryan Nelson also hasn't been good, right, among D-backs rookie pitchers, but Brandon Pfaadt has just been so bad. He's looked like a non-major leaguer. Like, he has a 1.87 whip, a 13.3 hits per 9. This dude has given up 3.2 home runs per 9. Like, he's given up 9 home runs in just 25 innings pitched. He's got a 9.82 ERA. Like, Brandon Pfaadt is someone who we hailed as a strikeout artist, someone that could go deep into ball games, one of the deepest pitching arsenals you've seen, a true stud, and he is just not been able to look like a major leaguer. His stuff is not translated on the major league level. And so far, it has not been pretty to watch. I know he's a rookie, but there's been other D-backs, pitchers and hitters that have looked bad too in the first half. But I thought Brandon Pfaadt has just looked way worse than anybody else that I've seen. And considering the expectations that I had for Pfaadt, like I thought if he pitched like a 4 or 5 ERA, that would have been okay. Like that's something I would have expected. Like if you told me Brandon Pfaadt had like a 4.57 ERA, still gave up a ton of walks, maybe gave up a couple home runs, but the fact that it's like he's the worst version of Madison Bumgarner as it currently stands, that's not a sight I want to see. So I think he has to be considered the most disappointing D-backs pitcher from the first half of this season. Now I want to continue handing out awards, but before we get there, I want to talk to you guys about Sleeper, because do you want to win 100 times your money on daily fantasy baseball? Sleeper is now offering up to 100 times payout. Choose as many as 8 players that you like and pick your favorite baseball stats like home runs, strikeouts, hits, and more. Get your picks right and you can win big. Tonight, I'm taking Vlad Guerrero and Aaron Judge to go yard. Sleeper has become the fastest organically growing fantasy platform in the world, with over 5 million active users in 2022, while earning some of the highest levels of engagement per user in the industry. At Sleeper, it's not just about sports. It's about building personal connections and lasting memories. Use promo code LOCKEDON and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms for use of details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right. Let's get back into the Diamondbacks podcast, and don't forget to catch every D-backs pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and search up Diamondbacks. Now let's take a look at some more D-backs team awards. Let's hand out some more. I want to get Ketel Marte there. Ketel Marte, great first half by you, buddy. Really, really impressed with what you've been able to do in this first half, Ketel Marte. I actually don't have Ketel Marte written down for any team awards, so I'm so sorry, but I did say in segment number 1 I was super grateful for the bounce back that you had. But let's continue handing out team awards. Maybe you want to look away, Ketel Marte, since you're not going to win one from me today. But how about best newcomer? This is someone that the D-backs did not previously have on the roster last year, and I think for this one you have to give it to their newcomer, who's also a first-time All-Star, Millard Thomas, who's coming over with the 800 plus OPS, 15 bombs, been one of the major RBI producers on this team, is probably going to crack 90 plus ribbies, going to have a career high in home runs. Millard Thomas has brought the purple hair, has brought some fun antics, has brought a culture, been a great locker room guy. He's both fun on the field, in the locker room. He's the total package. I love Millard Thomas. He's had some very clutch moments late in games too this year. He's brought a pizzazz to this team. Millard Thomas, best newcomer. How about top non-Corbin Carroll rookie? This one is interesting because one of my predictions before the season was the D-backs were going to have multiple rookies in the top 5 of the rookie of the year voting because of Pfaadt and the Ryan Nelsons and the Dre Jamesons. And right now it looks like Corbin Carroll will probably be the only one, but maybe a Dominic Fletcher could get some love if he plays some more games. He still is batting .301 with like a 791 OPS as he entered that series finale against the Pittsburgh Pirates when he first got called up those first 3 weeks of the season. Not the first 3 weeks of the season, but his first 3 weeks and called up. Just phenomenal. One of the bright spots on this team during that time, really carrying the D-backs offense. Dominic Fletcher has been good. He's been a very good defensive outfielder as well. The metrics love him from that. I think Dominic Fletcher has brought a lot of excitement to the D-backs since being called up. I love Dominic Fletcher. I think every D-backs fan does. And I think he's been the best non-Corbin Carroll rookie in the first half of the season. Now, here is where these awards start to get a little bit more silly than the previous ones. The player I most want to grab a beer with after the game, I think it has to be Andrew Chafin. He wears those funny t-shirts. He has great sound bites in his little on the field interviews with Jody Jackson. I think Andrew Chafin is the guy I would want to sit down with after a game, or maybe, if he knew he just pitched 3 days in a row, maybe we sit in the stands, maybe we get a couple value beers, a couple value glizzies, and we just hang out and watch the D-backs game from the bleachers. I think Andrew Chafin will be the guy that'd be most fun to do that with. And I think I would also shave my beard and just keep the stash, so me and him could be the stash brothers in the bleachers as well. So I'm going with Andrew Chafin as my guy I would most want to grab a beer with. How about the player I watch through my fingers the most? You ever go to a scary movie and you just know a jump scare scene is about to happen? You have to put your hands over your face and you just kind of have to watch the movie through your fingers. This is the player that makes me feel like that, because this guy, he's got a sub-3 ERA as a reliever. He's had probably the longest streak among all D-backs relievers as looking like the most solid option out the pen, but he also leads this team in blown saves and has just been terrible in save situations this year. Is 1-6 in his win-loss record. I'm going with Scott McGough, because McGough, when he's not in save situations, he has like a 1-2 ERA. Like, he's elite. He's one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball. But in save situations, McGough has like a 4.57 ERA, leads the D-backs team in blown saves. He's got like a 1-6 record on the year. Scott McGough, I think, is a really good reliever, except when it's a save situation. When it's a save situation, I'm like, oh God, a train wreck might be coming. That's when I'm putting my hands on my face and watching through my fingers. Scott McGough is definitely taking home that award. How about the player sitting by himself in the cafeteria? If you ever seen Mean Girls, this is like Lindsay Lohan when she gets to the new school, just kind of by herself. She doesn't really have any new friends. I think that's Pavin Smith right now, because I think all of D-backs Nation just kind of turned on Pavin Smith. He was kind of getting a lot of opportunities and not really doing anything with it. And that's just been kind of the case with Pavin Smith his whole career. A lot of opportunities and not much done with it. So I think D-backs fans were just turned off of Pavin. I think they were upset to see him getting a lot of at-bats and him just constantly not doing much with it. And he finally got optioned back to Reno. I think D-backs fans were happy. And I think if he walked into a cafeteria right now, no one might sit with Pavin Smith. So I'm sorry. I love him, friend of the pod, but I think he has to take home this award. This next award might sound like a backhanded compliment, but it's really not. This is my PB&J player, my peanut butter and jelly, because I love PB&J. It's always consistent. It never misses, and it's always good. You just know what you're getting when you get a PB&J sandwich. And for this one, I'm putting down Christian Walker. Maybe I could have put Ketel Marte down here. Sorry, Ketel, but I'm doing Christian Walker because I know I'm getting Christian Walker. I'm getting a dude that hits home runs. I'm getting a dude that drives in runs. I'm getting a dude who plays elite defense. That's the Christian Walker experience. Bombs, ribbies, and stellar defensive plays. Those are the three truths of Christian Walker. I know what he is. He's good. He doesn't have prolonged slumps. He also doesn't have like prolonged hot streaks. He's kind of the same guy week in, week out, and I like it. He's like a PB&J sandwich. He's taking home that award. Then my final award that I'm handing out, it is called the Winter is Coming Award, because I think this player will take off in the second half of the season. This guy struggled the first month of the year, got sent down to Reno, but then since being recalled, he's batting like over 300. I'm talking about Jake McCarthy, who the last couple months of the season last year was one of the hottest players on this D-backs team, was a major cog in the D-backs offense. And I think in the second half of the year, Jake McCarthy, like how Dalton Varsho used to do, will take off and just be a spark plug and catalyst for the D-backs offense in the second half of the season. And I'm super excited to see it. Fortunately, not all D-backs players took home an award today, but still a fantastic first half of the D-backs season. I'm super grateful, and I cannot wait to watch the rest of this D-backs season, see it how it unfolds, see what the trade line, what happens there. There's so many more exciting things to happen the rest of the year. So I'm just super grateful for how things are standing at the halfway point of the Major League season. So that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. I think we'll have our crossover with Silly Baseball on tomorrow's podcast. Thank you to everyone who tuned into today's podcast. If you do listen every day, put hashtag everyday in the comment section on YouTube. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.